Joe, can you guys hear us okay?
I can, yes. You can hear me okay, correct?
Yep.
Great.
All right. 8:16, we'll call the meeting to order. First, we'll read our mission statement. Lewis County Economic Development, through its board, the IDA, and its brand, Naturally Lewis, are championing the growth of a community where people want to live, work, build, business, and play. We foster forward thinking and relationship building, connecting people, businesses, partnerships, and resources to effectively and efficiently grow our county. So, first off, we're going to use this time as a public hearing for the seeker portion of the Port Lion portal. Development project.
Yeah, just as a reminder, the IDA is taking lead agency on the secret process because the village of Port Lion doesn't have planning or zoning. And so this project wasn't required to go through any kind of site plan review, and therefore no secret process for the village. So it's just kind of a unique circumstance that it needs to be done for the IDA to grant any kind of incentives. So
Do something to officially.
one meeting. There's no public in the room.
So the
Yeah, we don't have anybody online for the public hearing.
privilege of the floor. All right, did everyone have a chance to review the minutes from the November meeting that Dennis sent out? Any questions? Motion to approve. Darlene, second. For any discussion? All in favor? Carries. October financials.
Right, the finance committee did review these this month. Some of the bigger items. On the profit and loss, you see on the investment line, you dropped off a big check to catch themselves up. Encouraging given the current state of being out of production right now with the equipment fire. So great gesture on their part to get caught up. Revenues and fees. We had invoiced November or number 3 wind, their first or their I guess second installment of their IDA fee. And they just paid that, so that's $350,000 in the revenues fees line. The economic development expense line, see that as a negative because we were credited for some Lion sale insurance we had paid for the entire year. So when we sold that property, we were next to that policy with credit that. Another negative on the Trinity Ave expenses line, again, this is you caught up and the kind of ins and outs on that line, so they're negative for the time being. Agency expenses is up. Kevin's office sent us a bill that covered almost a year's worth of legal, so you'll see that kind of average out over the course of the year, but get big in that month. And then occupancy was up a bit, for some removal for the winter and just the timing of the chamber's rent check. Questions on profit and loss? The balance sheet, you've got a couple big ones as well because you see the IDA fees for what's now Green Street Power Partners. Well, 70,000 almost in IDA fees that have been invoiced to hit that line on the accounts receivable, as well as the number 3 IDA fee. Other current assets, Roaring Brook, their 4th installment of their IDA fee on that line, so they gave it in. So That's raising the increase there. It's the only thing that I still really have to clean up for, despite with the auditor on is our Trinity Ave property sits in other assets line, and the depreciation for that property sits on a fixed asset line. So you see a negative on fixed assets, or you can see an offset with actual property. Just call out that negative. Questions on the balance sheet? Yeah, the finance committee also reviewed our expenditures, and the biggest call out there after the legal bill, and then we did finally get to pay back to the state the sales tax that Solitude Solar over or they over saved on sales tax, so they paid it back with us and passed it back to the state. So that was finally close. That was financials.
Thank you. Any questions? Motion to approve. Second. Dragon. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to items for approval, we'll start with the updates on the number 3 thing.
Marguerite will be jumping on.
Okay, so do we want to skip?
So,
Tom, do you want to give the finance committee update?
Okay, sure. Let's see, we spent quite a bit of time discussing the Tucko roasters. Basically, they got enough grant money to do the majority of their project. We thought that probably we should go forward. The Black Moose mortgage request.
I think we're going to discuss that later.
Okay, I mean, I'm just telling you what we're discussing that. There's some question there on that one. Legality of it. Discussed daily takeout, doing an internship, and we thought that was a good idea to go forward with that. She will be getting 1310 or 17-week period. She will be doing online. And then we discussed the change of the fiscal year. More discussion on that. Those are the main items that we talked about. One other question that I have is what exactly I looked back in the notes and I couldn't find the exact number on the storage factor. How much was it? The reason I ask is they're applying for some more money and their numbers in their application don't add up very good.
they're applying for some more. Where are they applying for more money?
North Country Economic. Because they're in Turin, but we got a copy of their.
Oh, I know, okay, so are you talking about the CFA grant that they received through the state? There's a public hearing on it.
Yes.
Okay, so with that grant, Snowridge applied back in like 2017, I believe, for a grant to cover the costs of the tuning hill, magic carpet, and campground expansions. It took a few years for that to actually go through that project. This past summer, they were able to work with ESC to revise that grant application to include the tubing hill, the magic carpet, the groomer, and campground expansions. And that public hearing is just part of the process with ESC. With that public hearing before they actually reimburse the spring funds. So that application is from.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Well, there's a lot of things that don't add up in there, but
Right.
the rumor just being one of them.
Yeah,
Uh,
I saw that.
they, that's Turd's problem, not ours.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so thank you, Tom. And so from that, there was, as Tom said, the, finance committee felt it was appropriate to move forward with, in the process for the, IDA incentive, benefits application that Doug Gillars and Roasters, put in. So the next step in that would be having a motion for to hold a public hearing on that project.
And just for a little overview of the Artisan Roasters project, they have just finally closed on the old jail building, 6th Street. And they're going to be renovating that building, a bunch of abatement. The building's sat empty for at least 8 years. You know, in front of me, when I was in the village. They wanted to do something with it, but never needed major abatement, lead and asbestos. So it's not on the tax roll currently. It's been vacant, just kind of deteriorating in the village of Loudville. Until the Artisan Roasters wants to, they've got a grant to do the abatement, and they want to do a bunch of renovations to the roastery out of what's essentially a shed at on their property to downtown Loudville. And they've gone through the village, all of the zoning requirements to get that use allowed. So the village, and they're also going to set up like a bakery tasting room type thing, and then make more space available to other makers and artisans and you know, whatever kind of comes along with some extra space. Kind of an incubator type setup. Is much needed in the village of Loudville. I think there are a couple of storefronts, but people are just starting out, it's a little bit daunting. So a smaller manageable space that's got some shared resources will be good. What they're asking for from us is a pilot, a sales tax incentive, and a mortgage reporting tax incentive. And being that it's another mixed use, much like Fort Wayne School is, it's a mixed use, it's very much a targeted kind of project that we're looking for with our strategic plan and what falls in all of the lists that we have to reference to determine where these are. So we determined it should be, we're asking that it is a Schedule A project, which means 75% tax abatement for the first 5 years, 50% for the next 5, and then 25 for the remaining 5 on the pilot, and then at 15 years, we're back up to full taxation. So you guys received this cost benefit that I ran in your packet. The biggest probably variable is we don't really know what it's going to be assessed at. The project is all done, so I threw in $500,000, but we really don't know. It's currently assessed at $158,000. I know they purchased it at probably 10% of that. But another conservative line on that cost benefit is that I pulled it out with the line that's in red, halfway down the screen right now. Currently, the village, the town, the county, school are bringing zero revenue in, tax revenue from that property because it's held there, although it's C3. So they could sit on it for another 10 years and continue to draw zero, but we're putting it in as if it was getting taxed at its assessed value. Let's say we're being conservative on this. no effect to us, bringing people into the rental spaces there.
I will add that the finance committee also looked at the evaluation criteria that's listed in our uniform project evaluation policy. This project does fall under food processing and adaptive reuse of a downtown building, which are projects that we're targeting. And we also look at the state required criteria, the extent to which the project will create or retain permanent jobs, which they are, the estimated value of the tax exemptions, the amount of private sector investment. He does have some private investment with this project, along with other grant funding. The likelihood of the project being accomplished in a timely fashion, the new revenue provided to the local taxing jurisdictions, and other miscellaneous elements. So, tourism, taking really cool historic building. Center downtown. So with that said, all that criteria helps us make the decision to move this project forward.
What we're looking for today is a resolution of the public hearing to see what the public has to say about granting incentives and the project in general. And then there'll be another step where it comes back to.
I might add that a couple of years ago, we were thinking about that as a home for ourselves and toured it, and something there new. It's a disaster.
It's cold out. It's a cool disaster.
Oh, yeah. I think the building is at least structurally pretty good, but inside is something else. Still got jail cells. So with that in mind, I would go ahead and make the motion.
So we have a motion from Tom to go ahead for the pass the resolution for a public hearing on this application. We have a second. Mackenzie, any discussion? We need a roll call vote. Tom,
Yes.
Mackenzie, Goggin, yes. Herb, yes. Darlene,
Yes.
Joe, yes. Ron, excuse. All right, now, we do have Marguerite on now, so I apologize for jumping around a little bit, but given her time, maybe we jump back up to number 3.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Joe, you want to provide updates on number 3?
Be happy to, Brittany. Good morning, everyone. I'll start and then Nadine can fill in if I leave anything out. What you have in front of you is a resolution that basically bootstraps on the approving resolution that you did a number of months ago. The reasons for the consideration of this supplemental resolution is that, as is very routinely the case, as a project moves along in development, the original estimated project costs change, and that's what happened here. We have revised project costs and accordingly revised financial assistance numbers, and those are all outlined in the resolution on exhibit page 1, where if you look at A1, you'll see that in item 4, the project cost is now estimated at an outside number of $217 million. And then the estimated exemptions that the IDA is providing through the IDA structure are outlined in row number 3, where we describe the amount of sales tax benefits, the amount of real property tax benefits, and the amount of mortgage recording tax benefits. As part of this process, we did hold a public hearing earlier this week. I attended along with Brittany and Shai and Marguerite. I believe, Brittany, we were the only ones there, correct? Yep. So no comments were received at the hearing. No comments, no written comments were received. We did hold the public hearing open for at least 15 minutes to give people time to attend and make their comments. So we're satisfied that we certainly checked the box with respect to the holding of the public hearing. The second part of the resolution that we have that I want to bring to your attention is on page 3 of the resolution in section 2. We have some very good news with respect to our firm, which is that John Dax, who is a noted expert and experienced lawyer in the energy and green tech field, has joined our firm. And it's very exciting news for us in terms of additional work and additional skill sets that are provided in our office. John was working on behalf of the project applicant here. So what we have in that section is a disclosure with respect to that. I know that John worked with in-house counsel at Marguerite's company, and we've obviously worked with staff and worked with the local counsel for the IDA. So what we're doing here is just memorializing that toward the very end of this process, there was a change with respect to Mr. Dax's affiliation. He was on his own in his own law firm, but now he's a partner in our office. And I think that's really it in the resolution. With that, I'll open it up for comments or questions.
Questions? No questions here.
I'll just make the comment that the reason that the project cost went up so much between 2019 and now is highly unsurprisingly COVID. You know, cost of steel is crazy high, and so project costs are up more than 25%, but that's fundamentally the mechanism there. Unsurprising, I think.
I'll just underscore that. Marguerite's absolutely correct. I mean, we're seeing that across the board with all different types of projects. And I'm sure you're seeing it just by reading the newspaper and seeing what's happened with supply chain issues and what we hope to be a temporary blip with respect to inflation.
We're just glad to still be able to build the project.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else here? Comments?
I mean, maybe the only other thing I'll raise, Marguerite, we're online to close sometime in this month. That's the timetable.
Yes, I mean, it had been tomorrow that we were closing. I think it has bumped a couple of days, so it's sometime early next week. But yes, it is imminent. So I am hoping that our land agent Lori can come by once everything's executed and get it recorded today and just move things along.
Very good.
Thank you so much for moving all this stuff forward so quickly.
Thank you for your work and always being timely and providing information we requested. All right, so with that, is there we need anything else before we move forward with the motion? All right, so this will be another roll call vote. And we would need a motion to approve the final resolution on number 3. Tom, second. Darlene, seconded. Any discussion? No discussion. Roll call. Tom,
Yes.
Mackenzie,
Yes.
Dagan,
Yes.
Herb,
Yes.
Darlene,
Yes.
Joe, yes. Ron, excused.
Thank you. Thanks, Joe and Nadine, Marguerite. Appreciate all your work.
Thank you all.
Thank
Happy
you.
holidays.
You too.
We'll be in touch. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Take care now. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Joe.
Thank you.
Right, so now, we'll jump back down, picking up when, Tom's report. So the next item was that the finance committee did recommend moving forward with, approval of funding a spring internship for Daily Table. As you know, she was our intern last summer, and again, as Tom said, this would be a remote internship this spring where she would be working to assist staff with some projects.
And she approached us about a month ago. She needs to do a spring internship for college. She requested, I mean, she would have done it unpaid, but would have liked to have it as a paid internship, and we would love to pay her for that. She was a great asset over the summer. It will be a marketing internship, so she will be picking up on some of the same activities that she was doing over the summer, which will actually be a huge help for Jenna. You know, some of our social media and just website updates should be a huge help. So we are recommending she'll be paid minimum wage at $13.10 an hour, up to 10 hours a week for 17 weeks, which is what is required for the internship. So up to $2,500 to pay her for the spring. And this was not part of our budget. We do intend to budget for interns for our next fiscal year because we see it as something that's really important and it's very helpful for us to have some interns. But given I was on maternity leave over the summer, we still have some payroll funds left over. Yes.
Any obligation imposed on the staff to file reports, something like that?
Probably, yeah. We will learn more. I'd be in touch with her after this meeting. So I'm assuming.
Any other questions? We need a vote on this.
Yep.
Gaga, second, Kenzie, all in favor? We also had some discussion on the updating our compensation policy.
Yeah, so just to give a little background, and then I'd like to pass it on to Dr. Joe to discuss the reasoning why we're at where we're at. Joe and Gavin and I started this conversation probably end of this past winter, early spring, to update our compensation policy to include cost of living, salary adjustments, and performance adjustments. And really, we just needed to put a process in place as to how we would go about providing performance and cost of living salary adjustments for employees that work for the IDA. So we have added in this policy the cost of living adjustment, which is pretty straightforward. We just get the percentage each year and apply that. And then performance salary adjustments will be based on the bullet points listed, so accomplishments and quality of work and time at the IDA. And we'll also take into consideration any budgetary constraints. The one thing that the finance committee did discuss in length is focusing on option A and option B. And I did ask the committee if they wanted staff out of the room while they discussed it, and they said I think it's fine. But do we want to put a target percentage for performance increases, or leave it open-ended for the executive director and the board to discuss for staff, and how often should we implement performance salary adjustments? Should it be annually? Should it be every 2 years? So that's kind of the question for you guys as the board to discuss. Joe and Goggin, anything to add?
Not more than what you just said. It's essentially, in my opinion, there needs to be a year-end review done on the staff with Brittany, and then us as a board do a year-end review on Brittany. And then there's two schools of thought. Joe and I differ in this. I think we do. The fact that Joe thinks right, Joe, you think there should be a range, that we're shooting for the range, and I think there shouldn't be a range whatsoever in this on an annual basis, based on a whole myriad of reasons we decide, including budgetary constraints, we decide what that percent ends up being. From my point of view, to not have any expectation. So if we do a 3%, that we're shooting for 3%, but what if it isn't 3%, and then that'll make people upset and disappointed, rather than there just being an open, hey, it's 2% this year, or it's 1%, or it's 4% for that now. That's where I'm coming from. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, we had some debate on this, and I came at it from the angle of it, board members change over time, dynamics change over time, and the thought process being that if you put some sort of target in there, like option A, and as it's written, it could be higher or lower than that based on all those other factors. But then as people change over time, there's a document to refer back to where there's some sort of starting point for discussion, so that the group has some sort of guardrails to say what's appropriate, and it doesn't vary wildly by who's on the board at the time. Not that the future board couldn't change the policy, but so that was the two schools of thought. I mean, we're very open to, and that's why we wanted to bring this to discussion for everyone. And, I think Brittany's laid it out fairly well. And just to clarify, this is on the performance side, that we wanted to make it clear that this cost of living would stand alone and be, calculated each year based on the government rates. So this would specific to the performance based increases which on top of the standard cost. So yeah, it's open for thoughts, but that's kind of the two trains of thought.
If you get open ended, some of the factors that come into play. Depending on financial state of agency. Factors that targets. I agree, it could create mixed feelings when it's not that.
And I appreciate that. One response would be, with all due respect to the staff and everyone in the room, if it's performance based and you didn't get the benchmark, then that's hopefully that included a discussion with your supervisor where you need to improve to get to the benchmark. So I think I would just
I think a question I would have is would the expectation be that the employee would come to bring forth requested merit?
no, the thought was this would be on for employees with Brittany to perform this annual review, and the expectation is this is built into the annual review based on those factors. Frankly, I would see it as if an employee came in as feeling they needed to be compensated at a higher rate, or maybe had another offer or something like that, then the discussion has to be what that position is worth to our organization. Because, you know, my philosophy anyways is every position description kind of has a maximum. And if you're asking for more than that, then it probably needs to come with added responsibilities. So, so I think that would be another scenario. This is to set up an annual review process. And then if someone felt they really needed their compensation adjusted, that would be a separate discussion with a review of their job.
So we have yet to develop the performance.
Right, that's what we're talking
Yeah.
right now, is to say, if the performance component of it, it has to be it's a pay for performance. That's what it comes down to. And do we set a threshold, or do we just say that's what it is? To me, in my world, it's pay for performance is essentially unlimited based on how well you do. But I know we can't do that here. But I still, in my mind, I just think that a defined range creates an expectation, and then animosity or negative feelings if we don't get to that range. Or then we feel obligated that we have to because we've set a range. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm coming from essentially from, I don't want people, our staff, to be demotivated in any way, and rather the opposite, be motivated to say, okay, we can shoot for, well, I'm gonna go out of my way and make it, let's see the board, that proposed 4%. Like, you know, that's where I'm coming from.
So what I'm hearing is we have Darlene kind of sucking dragon on option B. And so, which is fine. I mean, that's why we're having this discussion. So I mean, if, you know, that's, you know, Tom, Lindsay, if you have any thoughts, with that to add.
I agree.
That's
So I don't know, as we're ready, are we ready to really implement this today, or just, I mean, do you feel with the rest of the language you have in there that if we put option B in there as the language that you're ready to, okay. So can we have a motion? Second thing, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. All right, governance committee. So the finance committee had discussed revisions to the universal tax exempt policy last month. And then the governance committee had the opportunity to this month.
We started the governance committee in August, I think. And circle back to governance. So actually there's been no changes since finance committee saw it last week. I'm sure everybody was on board with it. The next step with this policy would be to send it out to tax jurisdictions. Adjusting their personal tax exemption policy and see if they have these exemptions. So that will change it.
Would that be sort of descriptive letter as to how we
So I think for today, we just need a motion to send the draft to.
Charlie makes the motion to send the draft updates to affected tax jurisdictions. Do we have a second? Or any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you all for your work on that summer and the past 2 years.
All right, moving on. We have executive director's report.
Not really too much new things happening. I just want to provide an update on the Casanova and Novel Farmers Co-op project. So if you can recall, probably about 5 years ago, IDA was working with BCA to create Commerce Park, just outside of the village. So right next to the bowling alley, essentially. Worked with BCA for a number of years to come up with site plans. Get the site shovel ready, get it applied, and send an application to shovel ready. And some hiccups with the level, so that project just essentially next up. And we decided to right. We decided to put that project on hold, and that's when the Climax property came up for sale. Decided to give it and purchase that property. So the co-op in Casanova came to us and said we are looking for a piece of land, and we kind of want to locate together. So we kind of mapped out some potential spots, and this parcel came up at the top of their list. So we are working with BCA on a revised site plan, and I do want to just disclose for the minutes that Mackenzie and Nick Lehman, they were the lead on that project 4 or 5 years ago. So this was before Mackenzie was on board. And we decided that with the site plan update, it just makes sense to continue working with BCA because we did a lot of, they have all the files and about 7,000 BCA before on this project. So Mackenzie has shifted most of the work to Nick and Michael Terry for this project, but just for the minutes. So we are meeting with Casanova and the co-op and BCA today to go over a revised site plan, how this property could work with both businesses and how the IDA can be involved in that process. Because essentially without IDA involvement, this project probably isn't going to happen. Because there are some infrastructure that's need to happen above the water sewer. Road frontage alone, allow them to subdivide it. This parcel. Allow it. I'm getting a variance to get around that. Cheyenne and I have had preliminary conversations on how financially we can make this work. So we're coming up with a number of scenarios. If it works, it'll be really cool retention project for both businesses. We have talked to, the co-op, we don't want them to just sell their building to like anyone. We don't want them to storage units in that location. So we would want to take ownership of those buildings as well, so that we can have the same. So lots of work to be done, but
Just reiterate that I think, again, the job retention, not only job retention, but the critical position of these two businesses as part of our agricultural infrastructure.
Yeah, and there are a couple other lots that will be available up there. There's some space for a couple other lots. And they're actually in business that potentially need to bring this is after hours tonight.
The part about pretty solid or nothing is at this point.
nothing set in stone right now, but we have had the conversations about that.
Just
We
like-
want to be a part of that process.
This I love. Probabilities there.
Well, and
Basically, the whole forest as a corridor,
Right.
which aligns with the DR process.
You don't really want that whole area to fall down.
yeah, there's a lot of opportunity there and a lot of vision for what that rail corridor could be going through the middle of the village. So definitely want to see this, if this goes through, see the space reutilized, given its prominent location in the village. Anything else, Brittany? Moving on, any correspondence? Okay, so as Cheyenne's been updating us on, there's been investigating switching our fiscal year.
Yeah, it's kind of been like an annoying thing that our fiscal year. We think that's probably just because that's when we have to be for. It does not align with. I've never seen it align fiscally with anyone else, especially as we talk about working closer with LCIDA, be nice to be on the same fiscal year, and they're on a calendar year, county's on a calendar year. So we started to look into it. It's not nearly as difficult or as complicated as I had assumed. Jefferson County is actually doing it right now, coincidentally enough. It would require us to have. So if we were to try to do this in the near future, we carry out our fiscal year through the end of May, have a normal audit, and then start our new fiscal year. But then we have another audit after December 31st, a stub audit, and then switch calendar. And we touched base with the accountant that we work with, and there's some things. Everything to line up in our reports will probably be a little bit. But the ABO, we just kind of need to let them know right up ahead of time, get their blessings, and everything is very Paris. Seems like easy enough. I mean, it'll be a heavier audit bill to make that change. Auditor did say that lining up with the everybody's on the calendar year for ours, same offset before. I think we've gone far enough way in terms of they don't have to do as much on our audit anymore. That at least helps some.
Would anyone be opposed to changing the fiscal year? So we'll continue to.
The LCDC's on the calendar year now.
Yes. Just for budgeting, council funding. And, as we look to like move some programs over to the LCDC, vice versa, it'll make sense to streamline this.
One downside is that we get to same time. That's not bad either because same projects, different specs of them. So, and we need to have our
Every 5 years.
Okay.
But Liz Hershey with Bauer Associates. Or Bush, sorry. On our primary. All right, holiday party.
Just a reminder, we are hosting a holiday party with the SBC board and the Chamber of Commerce Board on December 29th at Tavern 230 at Snow Ridge. So we would love to have you all join us, bring +1. Just be sure to RSVP by the end of next week.
So, right,
So if you bring a local gift of $20, everyone who brings a gift will draw a number. And you pick a gift in that order. It's just, it's a way.
oh, it's like a thing, that's what's called.
Or it's been called Chinese Christmas. Yeah. So we would love to have you guys. Anytime.
Last month it was tempers. this
Wrapped
month
or
it's
unwrapped, just
like-
make sure.
But
Because if it's,
Wrap.
Last month it
wrapped,
was tempers,
yes.
this month it's like.
yeah, I don't, I'm learning. I'm not from here. And by here, I mean United States.
Thanks so much. And then proposed board meeting structure. So I had sent out a proposed structure where we would think about changing our meetings to the third Thursday of the month. The more that I looked into it, it would be more of a conflict for staff based on like some of the conferences that we attend. They're usually like so we decided we're just gonna keep our meetings on the first Thursday at 8:15. And we're gonna also hold the LCDC meeting on the first Thursday as well. Whether or not they happen directly after our meetings or at the end of the day, we're gonna discuss that with the LCDC. But we're gonna continue to do more as two boards together, like strategic planning discussions. But also keep them separate enough so that
All right, so that, any questions on new business? All right, so we do have 2 items for an executive session this morning. The first is attorney client discussion regarding contract negotiations with Black Moose development, and then the second is personnel related discussions. So we have a motion to go into executive session. Mackenzie, second. Darlene, all in favor?
Aye.
So we're now out of executive session. So, to conclude today, based on what was discussed, legal counsel will continue to work on the actual matter. And, we would be looking for a motion to, approve the salary adjustments, with the revision, discussed. Second, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Just a reminder at the bottom of the dates of upcoming meetings and events, and if there's nothing else from anyone. Oh, sorry, yeah. Good. So yeah, we did have the public hearing open for the seeker review of the Port Light and Portal project. We did not receive any comments. We'll have to close that public hearing. And all right, with that, a motion to adjourn the meeting. Sure. Gavin, second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
And as far as the strategic planning presentation, we aren't holding any committee meetings this month. We did invite the IDA and LCDC board to be a part of that. We will host it here, but also offer a Zoom option, December 21st, 8:30.
And that's just a presentation.
Yeah, and I think we'll include some discussion of the two boards as well. And we'll get into budget